A few weeks ago in our inbox, we found a letter and some pictures from California. This is from Rich Weaver in Southern California. This is what he sent. My husband was out of town when the Supreme Court decisions were handed out last Wednesday. He returned on Saturday and we went out to dinner. We finally came out to the people in our community without fear of reprisal for the first time. We were surprised by the owners of the restaurant with a celebratory ice cream sundae. We have been together for 17 years. We were married in Ventura County, California on October 27th, 2008. And that, of course, means that they got their marriage done right before Prop 8 passed a few days later. And Prop 8, of course, banned their marriage for years until this Supreme Court ruling, which led to the celebratory dinner, which led to their coming out in their hometown, which led to the celebratory surprise ice cream sundae from the nice folks who ran that restaurant where they were having their coming out dinner. The letter continues. We celebrate our marriage, our equal marriage, not just some second-class same-sex marriage, some lame skim milk marriage. This is Rich Weaver here, who wrote us the letter. This is his husband, Michael Reagan. Mr. Weaver writes, quote, "We have found support even in this heart of Republican Ronald Reagan country. We look forward to these changes in the rest of the country." And then he signs it in the name of Fairness, Love, and Family. Rich Weaver, Ventura County, California. That is part of life in California now, in a fairly conservative red state part of California. You could say that couples like them were the luckiest in the country last month when the Supreme Court ruled that not only could gay couples get married in California again, but this time it would count at the federal level too. Right? So that means no more skim milk marriages, right? In California and the other states that have marriage equality, it's not skim milk anymore. It is whole milk, ice cream sundae, real marriages now. Congratulations on the Prop 8 case. So that's California and another dozen or so states where there is marriage equality. But what about everybody else? What about people in places where the whole state is red, right? Where nothing's going to change anytime soon, where the bans in those states on marriage equality are really popular? Like what, for example, happens in Mississippi?
LGBT folks live literally in every town across the South. And the solution to the discrimination we face is not for us to move. I don't know about y'all, but I guess all the time, why don't you just move to New York or Iowa or Washington State? Because it's cold. I don't want to live there. What happens when real people say, enough, I'm not leaving, but I am standing up?
What happens when real people stand up? That video comes from the Campaign for Southern Equality, which has spent the last month asking that question in bright red Mississippi. Kristen Welch and Jenna Lockwood went to their local county clerk's office in Poplarville, Mississippi. Population not nearly 3,000. Ms. Lockwood is in the Air Force Reserve. Ms. Lockwood thanked the clerk, who turned them down for their marriage license. She and Ms. Welch can be married in the eyes of the U.S. military, but not in the eyes of the state of Mississippi. But still, they tried. A few days later, activists tried again in Mississippi, this time in the capital city of Jackson. They got told no again, and then look what happened. Reporter Dustin Barnes of the Clarion Ledger newspaper tweeted that after the couple was denied their license, quote, sounds of laughter could be heard in the clerk's office. And if you just look at the couple and you consider that they are two men asking for a marriage license in Mississippi, where every single county in the state supported the ban on their marriage, right, when it was last voted on, you might think that laughter would have been directed at them, right? People laughing at them for even trying. But that does not appear to be what happened. The clerk in Jackson said in response, absolutely not. She said she was there and she is sure that no one in that office was laughing at that couple or at any of the gay couples in the clerk's office that day. She said that one of the men asking for a marriage license started crying upon being turned down. Staff in the clerk's office cried along with him, too. So that is one thing that happens when real people stand up. Other people surprise you by caring about what you are doing, and they make sure the world knows they are not laughing. By asking for a right that they cannot have in Mississippi, these couples are changing, in some way, every clerk's office that they walk into. They are making themselves known to their neighbors and to their state as Mississippians. They are making this all as clear and as heartrending as could possibly be. And while we are talking about settings you might think are unlikely for this sort of thing, consider also the great state of Arkansas. In Arkansas, they have not one but two red state gay rights campaigns thinking about asking voters directly for same-sex marriage rights in Arkansas. After the Supreme Court ruling last month in Windsor, where the court said the federal government could not single out gay couples for stigma and disadvantage. After that ruling, two Arkansas couples went to their clerk's office in Little Rock, Arkansas, and they asked for a marriage license, and they made sure they got turned down. Rita Jernigan, she is the taller one here. She retired from the Little Rock schools after teaching math for almost 30 years. She's facing the very concrete nuts and bolts reality that because she lives in Arkansas and because Arkansas's laws are what they are, she cannot leave her retirement pay to her partner, Pam Jernigan. We talked to Pam Jernigan today. She told us that in the clerk's office that day when they went in to apply for their marriage license, she said the clerk's office let them fill out the form. She said they couldn't have been any nicer. She said people in the department cheered them on, even as they turned them down. This month in Ohio, which is another state that bans gay couples from marrying, two Ohio men left their home state of Ohio and went to get married in Maryland. And they were in a hurry because one of the men is dying. John Arthur is suffering from a terminal illness. He has Lou Gehrig's disease. He and his partner Jim made their trip to the altar in a plane that had to be outfitted specially to take care of Mr. Arthur because he was so ill. They flew from Cincinnati, where they live, to the airport in Anne Arundel County, Maryland. And once they were on the ground in Maryland, where it was legal, they got married in the plane. Then they flew home, and back home they asked a federal court to recognize their marriage, despite the Ohio state ban against marriage equality. And the amazing thing is that the court said yes. The federal court ordered the state of Ohio to recognize John and Jim's marriage from Maryland, the same as the state would recognize any other Ohio couple's marriage if they had got married in any other state. The judge cited the DOMA decision for the reasoning in the case, saying, quote, "This is not a complicated case. Throughout Ohio's history, Ohio law has been clear. A marriage solemnized outside of Ohio is valid in Ohio if it is valid where it was solemnized. How then can Ohio single out same-sex marriages as ones it will not recognize? The short answer is Ohio cannot." This one is really very simple. The two men asked, the court said yes. Because of the Supreme Court decision last month, you have the right to be considered married in Ohio, and Ohio no longer has the right to divorce you at the border. We are living right now through a sea change moment that is not one big sea change all happening at once. It's made up of lots of teeny tiny little drops that are making this change happen in the whole country based on a lot of very tiny points of pressure. All these pioneers in all these places across the country, people you never heard of, people doing what they can with their own regular people lives, changing the places where they live. And sometimes it is public officials who are doing it too, in ways large and small. This week in Montgomery County, northwest of Philadelphia in Pennsylvania, the elected official in charge of marriage licenses in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, announced that he had decided that no matter the state law in Pennsylvania, he believed that he was right to start giving marriage licenses to gay couples. A same-sex couple had said they intended to apply in Montgomery County, and he said he would grant their wish. Now, to be clear, this particular official, this register of wills in that one Pennsylvania county, is just one elected official doing what he believes is the legally correct thing to do for his job. He is just one guy. But so was the mayor of San Francisco, and Gavin Newsom, when he threw open the doors of City Hall in San Francisco in February 2004. Thousands of people got married in the span of a month, although the state technically did not allow that. That same month, back in 2004, it was Little New Paltz, New York. Remember the young mayor there, Jason West, who announced that his city, too, would start offering marriage licenses to same-sex couples, not because it was state law, which it wasn't, but because he thought it was right? Well, today it happened in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. This was the first couple in line, two women with a couple of kids who've been together for 17 years, and they said they never intended to be first, but they got their license. They got married, and then they left on a nice vacation. Bruce Haynes, the Register of Wills in Montgomery County, told reporters today that he did not know what to expect. He didn't know what would happen after he announced his intentions yesterday. Mr. Haynes said, quote, "I was driving into work this morning and I thought we could have a line around the block, or maybe nobody would show up at all." We can tell you tonight that Mr. Haynes issued 5 marriage licenses to same-sex couples today in Pennsylvania, and he made a great lot of history in doing so. Joining us now is Bruce Haynes. He's the Montgomery County Register of Wills, who started issuing marriage licenses to same-sex couples in the great state of Pennsylvania and is the first person to have ever done that. Mr. Haynes, thank you very much for joining us tonight on your big day.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How did you come to the decision to do this?
Well, if you let me go, I have to go back about a week. A week ago, I was contacted by two women who were interested in inquiring about how to get a same-sex marriage, and I discussed it, reviewed it with my solicitor. I have a solicitor, Michael Clark, and I reviewed it with the county solicitor. And some of the things we looked at was the Windsor case that you were discussing, the U.S. Supreme Court case, Pennsylvania Constitution, and a decision by the current Attorney General in Pennsylvania, and her decision not to defend DOMA in court. Going back to the Pennsylvania Constitution, three things really sort of stuck out. Article 1, Section 1, a general statement on, hey, we're all free and equal individuals and entitled to certain rights and happiness. Then Section 26 of the same article gets a little more narrow. It says, you know, if it's a civil right, nobody can discriminate against that person from exercising that civil right. And then Section 28, the final section, which sort of crosses the T, dots the I, as far as I'm concerned, and that was nobody can be discriminated against on the basis of sex. It's right there, totally unambiguous. Now, I'm confronted with a definition of Marriage Act in Pennsylvania. It defines marriage as a civil union or a civil contract between a man and a woman. But on the other hand, I have three fairly obvious and important sections of the Pennsylvania Constitution that sort of disagree with that. I was sworn in 2008, and again, when I was reelected in 2011, I was sworn in just last year, 2012, and I swore to uphold the Constitution of the Commonwealth. And I took the position, and I take the position currently that when a statute is in opposition to the Constitution, I'm going to follow the Constitution.
Do you think that these...
I did that.
Excuse me, sorry to interrupt, sir. Do you think that these five couples who you married today, to whom you issued these licenses, do you think that they will end up being test cases as this gets litigated and fought over politically in Pennsylvania, or do you think these cases sort of stand alone?
Rachel, I truly don't know. You even mentioned the fact that I have been speculating as to the number of people who are going to show up today. And it was going to be 0 or a line around the block. It turned out to be 5. So clearly I'm not very good at this. But I would like to point out that I issue a marriage license. I don't marry people. So it's a little bit different than the San Francisco situation. I issue marriage licenses to 5 people, and they have 60 days within which to have an official marry them. The official then sends the sort of like a receipt back to my office, and then it is registered in our database. And even before I issued marriage licenses to same-sex couples, there's a small percentage of licenses that never get used. So I really, truly don't know what's going to happen vis-a-vis these individuals. I truly wish them well, because I met each and every one of them, and they were just great people.
Well, you certainly made their day. It has to be said in a serious way.
Well, Rachel, I hope I made more than their day. I mean, you know, it's one thing to talk about this academically or from a lawyer's standpoint. You have two folks come in and ask for this recognition of their union. That puts it in an entirely different framework. It's not academic anymore. It's not ethereal. It's but did you say nuts and bolts? Did I hear you use the word nuts and bolts before? That's what it is.
Yeah. Bruce Haynes, Montgomery County Register of Wills in the state of Pennsylvania, a man who made history today. Thank you for helping us understand this tonight, Star. Please stay in touch. I'd love to hear how this pans out. Thank you for being with us.